Today's episode is supported by AIDS-Free Pittsburgh. There are more than 5,000 people living with HIV in southwestern Pennsylvania, and the Ryan White HIV/AIDS program provides support services to help them get the care they need. That includes assistance with things like healthcare, medications, housing, transportation, food, and treatment for substance use disorders. Visit aidsfreepittsburgh.org to learn more.
CityCast Pittsburgh is supported today by Fulton Commons. They are a co-working space, unlike any other here in Pittsburgh. Upstairs, where CityCast is, it is a vibe, so much light, plush decor, a shared kitchenette and conference areas, tons of individuals and small businesses to chat with over coffee and lunch. And downstairs, y'all, just wow. It is a full-scale commercial kitchen. So for co-working members, that means occasional food-related events and a preview of some of Pittsburgh's most delicious bites. For food professionals, it is a perfect place to start or grow your business. There are over 8,500 square feet of kitchen space, prep, cleaning areas, storage, and equipment, basically everything you'd need to bake, make prepared meals, operate a food truck, and more. Visit fultoncommons.com to learn more and request a tour. This is CityCast Pittsburgh. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. Have you said the words, "I told you so," like even to yourself, like in the mirror?
A best case scenario when you like say like the sky is falling is the sky doesn't fall.
I'm with Pittsburgh Controller Rachael Heisler talking about, again, Pittsburgh being sort of broke. I feel like we're coming full circle here. You have been ringing this alarm about city spending for years now, but I like to think that being broke doesn't mean that one has to stay broke. Yeah. So we're going to talk about how we got here and what we do now. You just popped a new annual report on Pittsburgh finances. You found that once again, we have overspent by a lot. What happened?
First and foremost, it starts with and ends with COVID. We can blame downtown and the decline in downtown property tax values. We can, the shift of work. But the big issue is the end of COVID relief dollars. So the American Rescue Plan in 2021, Congress and President Biden passed the American Rescue Plan Act. And it was federal support to townships, towns, cities, counties, tribal governments, states, and the city of Pittsburgh received $335 million. Half of it came in 2021, half of it came in 2022, and the city spent about $45 million a year in 21, 22, 23, and 24 towards direct operating support. And when you look at our deficit in 2025 and what we were putting towards our general operating in those 4 years, you can attribute most of the deficit towards the elimination of the American Rescue Plan Act.
But isn't that like kind of wild to step back and think about? Like, it wasn't bonus money, like bonus isn't the right word, but it was kind of like for regular people, kind of like getting a bonus check in the midst of something horrible. Why was getting new money the source of an actual problem for Pittsburgh over time?
Well, it masked a spending problem, right? It allowed us to not address rising costs, that gas is more expensive and it's particularly more expensive.
So much worse now than it was last year.
Correct. And, inflation over the course of the last few years. So it masked spending problems that we didn't address in those 4 years. So, what we noticed, and when I took office in early 2024, was that we had, a mixed match of spending and revenue, and spending was, generally speaking, outpacing revenue when you eliminated the American Rescue Plan dollars, and that we would end up in a very delicate position in 2025 if we didn't address that. And that ultimately ended up being what happened.
So you always do these annual reports. They come out every May. This one comes out just after City Council approved a new budget for 2026. That part is very unusual because, we heard all about this on the show all over town. Corey O'Connor said when he was still running for mayor, and your office screamed it, that Mayor Ed Gainey's outgoing budget was probably not going to do it for 2026. We got a tax hike in the meantime, and now we're going to be paying more money in 2026 than we'd even planned to. What is your takeaway from all of this?
So the budget that was passed at the end of 2025 for 2026 did not accurately reflect the true cost of government, right? It didn't accurately reflect the cost of utilities, right? Basic expenses. It didn't accurately reflect the cost of the water bill and known employee expenses for healthcare, et cetera. And we thought, and I believe that, and said so at the time, and I would say again now, that it intentionally deflated costs to get to balance. And I believe reopening the budget, putting those expenses out on paper, and letting people know where things stand is the responsible thing to do. I've said for the last few months, a problem we can see is a problem we can fix, but you have to be honest about the actual true cost of government. And reopening the budget is the first step in doing that, and putting all of the actual costs that we are going to have this year written down on paper is the first step there.
Well, so now we have this revised budget. It adds $28 million in spending, money we just frankly don't have. I mean, what's your take on the revision?
It reflects reality. So I think that is an honest step. My efforts since I took office have been to be candid with first and foremost the public, so that city residents understand the city's fiscal health. We are not on the verge of Act 47. I have said that from the beginning.
You did tell us that this time last year when I was like, but could we? but how does being broke work when you're a municipality?
But we need to be honest and focus on core city services, right? Public safety and public works. And we need to make sure we are delivering those city services.
AKA keeping people safe, keeping people clean, or the city itself.
Yes. Yeah. And we need to focus on that. And I think that hopefully this will inform policymakers too about what we can actually afford to do as a city. We need to really focus on public safety and public works. We can continue to deliver those core city services. We need to figure out how to grow too, right? The ACFR, the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, wasn't all doom and gloom. There were bright spots. But, another expense that we had last year that we will have again this year is that very expensive bond payment. A lot of these financial problems do go back to the pandemic and those decisions that were made in 2020 and 2021, particularly with the bond repayment, which I do think was the right decision at the time. But they are COVID-related financial challenges. And then another issue we're going to face this year that we didn't really have to deal with last year because of when the court ruling came out was the jock tax, right? So that is not on our books at all this year or moving forward. We will likely owe refunds. So that's an expense that we accounted for in reopening the budget. And it wasn't included in revenue in the budget passed last year, or of course the budget passed this year. But it is something we have to rectify because it is revenue that we aren't going to bring in. And in addition, it's a swing in the opposite direction because we'll very likely owe money back. And I'm not sure what that will look like. That is currently being litigated. But we do have to figure out, this year too, because we are going to have a deficit. And we cannot continue to rely on the rainy day fund just as a place to pick up extra cash, because we'll get to a point where there isn't anything left. It is supposed to be a rainy day fund. It's for emergencies. We relied on it heavily during 2020 and into 2021 until we knew we had those COVID dollars, or the federal relief rather. And it cannot just be for general operating. You don't use your savings account at home for buying groceries unless you're in an emergency, right? And the same is true here. We need to use, our unassigned fund balance, our rainy day fund is for emergencies. And we need to make sure that we have a healthy rainy day fund in the event of a drastic economic downturn, because these events are going to continue to happen in, greater frequency. We live in a global economy. Great climate events are going to continue to happen. We had a once in a lifetime storm in January. We had a once in a lifetime, rain event last April. I mean, these significant events are just going to keep happening, and we need to be very mindful about where things are headed.
And I want to underscore something you said there too, because, part of Act 47, when Pittsburgh was in it the last time, it's like a thing where the state basically has to okay every dollar you spend to try to make sure that your budget gets in order, your house is in order. We did it in the early 2000s, but we did not get out of it until 2018. Mm-hmm. This is recent. But one of the things that was part of that plan is that you have to project out your expenses as a city for 5 years out from where you are. So if you followed us talking about this and we talk about projections, like that has always been part of the conversation because we still do it. Even though we're not required to by state mandate anymore, we still do that. But the jock tax, like I think that is just, it's such a fascinating rabbit hole. If you're not familiar, it's where we basically required people like Taylor Swift who come here and perform once or twice during the course of a year to pay taxes for gracing us with their presence. We call it jock because we also like subject every single professional football, hockey, baseball player who comes here for a day or like literally a few hours and then they're gone. They have to pay taxes on that income that they earned while they're here. It's so complicated. And as you said, Rachel, it was deemed unconstitutional. Gainey counted on it in his 5-year projections every single time. And it's not a ton of money, but it was like, am I remembering right? It was like 6-7 million, depending on what was coming to town that we knew about in advance. So like, it's just like, it's one more chip in the armor of money we don't get to recoup. So I guess all of that said, like, do you think now knowing that we've added $28 million to what we know we need to spend this year, plus the draft, which is like a separate bill situation that will come due soon, are we at risk of overspending again in 2026?
Well, we will have a deficit this year. I mean, that's been acknowledged. We are going to pull money again out of the rainy day fund, out of our unassigned.
Are you scared?
Fund balance.
I mean, I know, like not you personally, like, but like,
I think we are in a very delicate financial position. I think when you look at the out years, if we're very focused on growth, I'm very encouraged by the fact that the new administration is focused on long-term relationships with our nonprofit partners for voluntary payments. $5 million from UPMC for fleet this year and next year is a lot more than zero. And that's what we got last year. So from my perspective, those are encouraging signs and signal that there are going to be long-term relationships that indicate that they'll contribute towards the direct operation of city government. And the direct operation of city government includes the purchase and acquisition of new vehicles, right? There are also, I would just want to flag this too, as you mentioned, Act 47, there are two significant differences between right now and 2003. One, every city in the state right now is navigating this post-COVID hangover.
Right.
And so is every city in the country. Every major city got COVID dollars, or the American Rescue Plan dollars, and they're all figuring their way out of this. Even the cities that you and I think of as fast growing, right? Austin, Atlanta, LA, they're all navigating this COVID hangover and how to navigate out of, these inflated operating budgets and inflated revenue figures that they had for 4 years. So every city's navigating this and trying to figure out what to do. But second, very unique to Pittsburgh, is in 2003, our pension fund was 35% funded. Right now, as of the last meeting, we were 78% funded.
Which is kind of wild. I don't want to bore people, but like it is really important for a long time. I mean, and really still, like if you work for the city, if you dedicate your career up to a certain point at retirement, you get a pension. Like nobody offers a pension anymore. But Pittsburgh does. And having it funded is like kind of vital to being able to pay it out. Like if it's not funded, then you're not able to deliver the checks you promise people for 30, 40 years.
And we need, from my perspective, there is no more significant commitment that the city needs to honor than the commitment we make to our city retirees and our current city workers. But we're in a position where we are healthy and able to continue to do that. That is a huge difference from where we were in 2003.
Today's show is brought to you by City Winery Pittsburgh. They're presenting Lyle Lovett Up Close, Songs and Stories. This man is a legend. He has put out 14 albums and won 4 Grammys, plus the Americana Music Association's Trailblazer Award. So getting to see him live in such an intimate space is a special treat. He'll be performing for 3 nights only from May 27th to May 29th, and seats are limited each night. If you haven't been to City Winery yet, this is the perfect time to make your first visit. It's in the Strip District, and you get a seated concert experience with food, wine, and cocktails. Personally, I'm a big fan of their mushroom truffle flatbread. This is a rare chance to see a legendary storyteller up close and enjoy the way he blends country, jazz, folk, gospel, and blues in his music. Tickets are going fast, so do not wait. Buy your tickets to see Lyle Lovett now at citywinery.org.
Today's episode is sponsored by Liberty Magic, Pittsburgh's premier speakeasy theater dedicated to the art of elevating magic. They're presenting Jared Kopf in the show We Phantom Figures. Jared is an absolute pro with card tricks, and this show is full of intimate magic that draws you in and refuses to let go. You may have already seen Jared's work, because he's done practical effects for movies and TV shows like Red Thread, A Ghost Story, and Now You See Me, Now You Don't. So you're not going to want to miss your chance to see his tricks up close. And if you're feeling especially adventurous, consider upgrading to the Skeleton Key VIP experience. I've done this before, and it's great. You'll get a reserved seat in the front 2 rows, and after the show, you'll get an exclusive meet and greet with Jared, where you can ask him all your questions about card magic and more. We Phantom Figures runs until May 17th. Get your tickets at trustarts.org/magic before they disappear.
Well, so there wasn't a ton of pushback with Mayor O'Connor's revisions to the 2026 budget. He did take $2 million, I saw, that was supposed to go towards new ambulances and shifted it to various other things. He said he was able to do that because of the gift from UPMC. They donated $10 million to buy ambulances over the next couple of years. But you have been, I would say by far, the most prominent voice raising concerns about how old our city vehicles are, all of them, but especially the ambulances. What's your opinion on taking some of that money away from the ambulances in this moment?
I think we need to dedicate revenue year over year to the acquisition of new vehicles.
Like city money, not just like these one-time gifts.
Just whatever it is, so that every year the city of Pittsburgh is acquiring new vehicles. Right now, we budget $1 million per month on fleet maintenance.
Which is literally like taking the car to the shop and getting it fixed, because everything's so old that something always needs fixed.
We have fire apparatus that are old enough to vote. We have rescue trucks that do not, are very, very unsafe to drive.
Am I remembering right? You threw a 30th birthday for something?
Yeah. 40. But yes, there's a
40.
There's a scuba truck. There's a scuba truck that was born the year I was, right? 1984. So it's a medic vehicle, or EMS vehicle rather. So we need to invest in our fleet, and it can't happen just in 2026. It can't happen just in 2027. We need dedicated revenue to go towards the fleet year over year. And there's a serious issue with the fire fleet because the way the fire fleet industry has sort of monopolized itself. They're all owned by private equity companies right now. It takes 4 years.
You mean like the people who make the cars or like the big trucks?
They're companies, but they're all owned by, there are basically 3 companies left in the United States. They take 3 to 4 years to get a ladder truck. They cost $2 million. From my perspective, it's becoming almost a national security issue because if major weather events that create fires are going to continue to happen, right? Climate change is happening. It's happening.
Yes, so full stop. This is a safe space for that.
Thank you. So major weather events are going to continue to happen, right? They cause fires. So, and when you consider the likelihood of a fire, and it takes 4 years to get a new fire truck because there are 3 companies that are all owned by private equity, and the price continues to skyrocket at a rate that outpaces inflation. I mean, I don't know how that doesn't describe a national security issue, concern to all of us, right?
And fire trucks are also just wildly expensive. I didn't realize this. I was playing a game with a friend of mine who is on Brentwood Borough Council, and they were trying to order a new one. And they were like, yeah, we got a bargain at $400,000. And that's not for one of the fancy trucks. That's for a medium truck. This obviously not technical terms here, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. They're very expensive. And the ambulances and the chassis that they're on, everything is very expensive, and things are only going to get more expensive. And the maintenance on them, because they're aging, is also getting more expensive. So from my perspective, we would be well served as a city to invest and have a acquisition plan where every year with $20 million, we're going to buy X number of new ambulances, X number of new fire apparatus, X number of new police cruisers, rather than investing money in vehicles that are 25 years old. You and I wouldn't do it at home. So why would, you hit a point with any vehicle where it's not worth it to maintain a unit that's so old. We have 1,400, vehicles in the city. Some of them need to be retired, and we should not be investing maintenance dollars and instead should retire them and buy new.
1,400 is sort of a staggering number. I don't even like the upkeep on the one single vehicle that I have. Not for nothing, I fell down a rabbit hole on this. I also think it's fascinating that if you don't let them get so old, they also still have trade-in value. Like there's like sort of a chess game to be played with like maintaining city, like municipal vehicles. And we're just not playing that game at all.
No. And if you invest year over year, we would decrease our maintenance costs. And then you think of it this way too. The workers on these vehicles are able to provide better services because their vehicles aren't breaking down. You know what I mean?
I mean, literally everyone's happier when they don't have to deal with a busted vehicle through the course of their job, speaking from experience. But so the city did move some money from that though. So like, it sounds like in the short term, am I getting this right? No, you don't mind that they moved $2 million away from this, but like you need to figure out the dedicated funding source. Is that fair?
Yes, I believe year over year that there needs to be an annual allocation towards the fleet. Our office last year recommended, we did the first fleet report. It came out last November. And our recommendation was actually a fleet trust fund. And
like they're going to college. I love it. They're old enough.
The phone truck is. So just to have an annual dedicated revenue that every year, this is what we have to work with, up front, it probably makes sense to keep it flat just so, to get through this financial situation that we're in. But at some point, it probably should be indexed to keep up with inflation, at least on, certain vehicles. The garage costs are going to continue to go up too, because labor is more expensive, parts are more expensive. And we need to make sure we're getting maximizing the value of every dollar.
You've asked for that. You've put a report out showing perhaps the wisdom of it. Is anyone biting?
Councilwoman Warwick has been very vocal about this. I think most members of council understand the concerns that our office has raised about the fleet costs, about the need to have a strategic long-term plan. And understandably, right now, given the financial position we're in, I think folks are a little hesitant to commit dollars when we don't know that they're there. But from my perspective, if we aren't committing dollars and dedicating revenue to the fleet, we're going to continue to waste money on maintenance. And, I think it's better to spend it on the acquisition of new vehicles versus pouring money into 25-year-old ambulances.
That's one strategy. Talking about council, they suggested through the course of this, like kind of at the end of last year when many folks, yourself included, were lambasting the Gainey administration for what I think you referred to as not an honest document. And then even into this spring when they, Mayor O'Connor takes over, they reopen the budget. They're like, we didn't have the expertise to catch this. Our staff is tiny. They suggested maybe better training for themselves, for their people, hiring an independent firm to help analyze mayoral budgets, like breakdowns of line items. Speaking as somebody who spent a lot of time in a budget, I wouldn't mind the breakdown of a line item because sometimes they're deeply confusing. It's like 3 words to explain a really large concept. Of all of that, like ideas that have been bandied about, do you support any of it? Is that something your office could contribute to in any way?
We actually last year had asked for access to the city's budgeting software to allow for further breakdown and just for us to see it and to better understand how figures had been cobbled together.
And I know your office is limited. Like for those who don't know, like the controller's office processes bills. You don't necessarily get to see through the approval process, like the planning and all of that. Like you get it kind of after the fact.
Yeah, we see the bills after the money has been spent effectively. Yeah. And we can obviously audit those bills and make sure that the money was actually spent and all of that. But I wholeheartedly support council being more engaged in understanding how city dollars are allocated. And I am encouraged by the dialogue that I've seen between the administration and city council so far this year. And, we asked those questions as well. How did you get this amount for fire overtime? How did you get this amount for EMS overtime? And we were not able to gain access to, it's called Questica, to the city's budgeting software. And, our office doesn't do budgeting per se, but given the dynamic and the financial situation that the city finds itself in at this moment, from my perspective, that needs to be a collaborative approach, and dialogue is important. And the trends that we see aren't necessarily the trends that other people would see. And as bills come through, when we see things that are alarming, I think it's prudent and responsible for us to flag matters for the Office of Management and Budget, for the mayor's office, and obviously for city council and whatever relevant department is in question. So, I take a collaborative approach. That's what we've tried to do for the last 2.5 years. And hopefully, moving forward, that will be something that is appreciated.
I'm just thinking about it. And maybe this is a completely silly question, but council and their staff, it's a small number of people, like a surprisingly small number. You have a staff of, am I remembering right, 57-ish?
Yeah.
And y'all are like experts in money and budgets and things like that, like how stuff gets spent and why and how to make it more efficient. Like, it does seem like there could be some skill sharing in this moment.
I would agree. But the thing to remember is duties are segregated intentionally, right?
I know. Yeah.
We don't budget. I happen to have a background in budgetary policy, but we actually don't have a lot of staff members here who don't have duties in other sections where they're actually managing the accounts and paying the bills or doing actual audits as a function of the controller's office.
So even within your office, like everyone's still wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah, we have, and within those sections, right, in accounts payable, you don't have people vouchering and then cutting checks for payments. Those duties are intentionally segregated. So we do things on purpose here. And obviously we're paying attention to things. And when we see things, we flag them and, we're tracking, is this happening? Is this happening? But I do think that the cooperation that can be had between all of these, different moving pieces could be better. Hopefully moving forward will be better utilized because I think we're in a financial position where we have, to your point, we do have the resources and we do have the expertise as a city and as a government, and we ought to start, using it.
I understand the segregation of duties, but I've always heard that like it can be wise to require like 2 signatures on a check, for example.
Yeah.
That's how you prevent a lot of bad things from happening long term. That's not in play here necessarily, but like just a thing that I has come up again and again in municipalities around Western Pennsylvania.
Well, and I'll tell you, when checks come through here for payment, they go to 3 different pods of people before a check is like sent out the door to double check that nothing happened. So like to your point, that collaboration, like big picture, hopefully will continue to be something that is listened to.
I appreciate your careful word choice.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, do we have the ability, like the flexibility as a city within our statutes, our charter, to make those changes? Like, is that something that council would have to like take action on? Or can you walk across the hall and be like, hey, do you need any help?
Well, so something that has continued from the previous administration into this one is the financial task force. It began, I think, in early 2024, soon after we sent a letter to council and the administration encouraging them to readjust revenue expectations in 2024. And we're meeting monthly, just about realistic revenue expectations, realistic expenditure expectations, how things are fluctuating. Like I mentioned earlier, we live in a global economy, right? Who knew that a war 10,000 miles away, I'm not sure how far away the Strait of Hormuz is, would drastically increase, the price of oil here. And I mean, obviously now it's pretty intuitive that it would, but we're talking about those things on a monthly basis to better understand what's going on elsewhere. And that gives us the opportunity to flag like, wow, deed transfers way up in 2025. And it was, right? It far exceeded and bucked national trends. When you look at the deed transfer tax, like there were bright spots in our 2025.
Rachel, what's a deed transfer tax?
So you pay, if you buy or sell a home in the city of Pittsburgh, you pay a tax on the transfer of the deed. It's 5%, goes right to the city. $10 million of that goes to the Housing Opportunity Fund at the URA, and everything above that $10 million goes to the city's operating fund. And our deed transfer tax revenue was up significantly in 2025. the financial task force is a place where we would talk about that, right? And say, are you noticing these trends and revenue being up in Q1? And they're convened by the Office of Management and Budget. And it's an opportunity for the city council finance chair, Erica Strasburger. I sit on it as well, and our staff. And it's an opportunity to informally kind of discuss financial matters that are, pressing, over time at the draft. This will be a conversation at the next meeting at the end of May.
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see what that number looks like. It is scared. I'm like the emoji, like hiding its eyes right now.
Yeah. It's expensive to have.
It was such a good party though. Like we did a good job.
Yeah. Pittsburgh shined. But it's also expensive. It's expensive to have an event like that. So
you were swallowing so many times. Well, it sounds like the detransfer tax is maybe one of those bright spots you talked about. Before we get out of here, like let's talk about like the happy news among like what is otherwise like kind of scary, like on the edge of scary. What is going well for Pittsburgh finances right now?
Our population has stabilized, right? We aren't declining. We
declined a little bit, which is such a bummer because we all talked about, we grew. And then they recalculated the numbers and like, in fact, you did not. You went down a little.
But wage taxes have stabilized, are stable. Our wage taxes are up. Real estate has stabilized. Deed transfers up, which means people are buying and selling homes, which bucks what's going on nationally.
Yeah, because the interest rate is still not great. It went down a little, but like it's still not great.
But you have to remember, this is 2025, not right now.
Right.
So reflect, when you look at national trends in 2025, wage taxes are up, deed transfer was up, and, we've rebounded post-pandemic levels with parking and amusement. Things are stable. And, the thing is that spending is outpacing revenue, and we have to get that under control.
What else do we need to do? Like short term, long term, what would improve our outlook?
I believe strongly that it's a shame that in 17 years, or until January of this year, our large nonprofit partners have not contributed to the direct operation of city government. And I'm encouraged that this administration is pursuing those long-term agreements. I hope all of our nonprofit partners will come to the table and agree that this is a needed investment. So that in the immediate term would actually make a significant difference. And in the longer term, we need to figure out growth strategies. We need to grow. And, a lot of cities, our peer cities are also in the same financial situation we're in right now.
But they're growing. So many other cities are growing. Like Pittsburgh, I think we have the lowest birth to death ratio of the 40 biggest cities in the nation, at least last year.
We have, of all of those metro areas, I would be willing to bet, A, that we have the largest student population of any of them. And B, we probably have the lowest entry point into home ownership. So those are two things that we offer that they don't. Additionally, we need to figure out how to attract immigrants here. Like the national environment right now is horrifying. And it breaks my heart every day. I'm the board treasurer of JFCS, which is the largest refugee resettlement agency in Western Pennsylvania. And what we have done to our immigrant communities across this country is a national embarrassment. It's heartbreaking and it is horrifying. And we need to do everything we can to attract native-born and immigrant communities to Western Pennsylvania. Because of our low cost of living, this is a prime resettlement location for people who are looking to make it in the United States, right? And we, as a city, need to do everything we can to remind people what a wonderful place Pittsburgh is. I am a Pittsburgher by choice, as I talk about very often. I grew up in the center part of the state. But
we're very familiar with the concept of living here on purpose around here.
But I will tell you that my grandparents are first generation. My mom grew up in Washington, PA, and my grandparents were first generation Americans. And my great grandparents all settled in Washington County in Western Pennsylvania because of the job opportunities afforded to them. And we need to do everything we can to make this a place that people want to come and start a business, a place that businesses want to resettle, and a place that people can come and start a family and start a life. And, I am, like many people, horrified by the climate that we have created as a country, and I'm not blaming you or me, but for immigrants. And if nothing else, the positive economic impact that immigrants create in this city and in this region cannot be understated. And we need to do everything we can to fight for immigrant communities in Pittsburgh and in Western Pennsylvania, and hopefully, encourage a national debate on immigration reform and doing everything we can to encourage non-native people to relocate to Pittsburgh.
I mean, is there anything you feel like we can do unique to other cities? Like if someone wants, I have trouble like wrapping my head around the idea of someone wanting to come to the U.S. in this moment where we're a horror show. But if you do, if we're where someone wants to be, why is Pittsburgh the move for them? Like what would the sales pitch be?
Candidly, it's really hard to get here right now.
Of course it is.
I don't know.
You mean Pittsburgh or the U.S. generally?
Sorry, it's really hard to get to the United States right now.
Right,
and there is no harder path than coming to the United States as a refugee. But there's no harder path to becoming a U.S. citizen than
it was wildly difficult before, like the stacks of paperwork, the meetings, the not a single toe out of line. And now we've made it so much worse.
I'll cry. So from my perspective, we need to, home ownership is the greatest tool I think that we can offer people. And we need to do things that will incentivize home ownership. And whether that's the recent CMU graduate or the, single parent who has been living and working in Brighton Heights for 30 years and just can't, figure out how to cobble together the resources to put together a down payment. Home ownership is the greatest tool that we can give anybody to create intergenerational wealth. And when you consider that it's cheaper to buy than it is to rent in Pittsburgh, from my perspective, that is the attraction that Pittsburgh has over so many other cities. And for, non-native Pittsburghers, and I mean that, if you're moving here from Harrisburg or if you're moving here from Honduras, that is the real advantage to Western Pennsylvania and to Pittsburgh. So I think a program that we need to create as a city, as a region, are tools and opportunities to build homeownership and then to build that intergenerational wealth. Columbus does a program called ADDIE, the American Dream Initiative, and they provide first-time home buyer opportunities to people who or I think it's up to 120% of AMI. So these are people that are teachers and, work in the public sector and, they make $80,000, $90,000 a year, but it's still hard to save for a home. Mm-hmm. And this program, the American Dream Initiative in Columbus, actually allows, people to become city residents through this program and provides them with cash assistance to home ownership. And I think programs like that actually are tangible and give people tools and resources to become homeowners. And those are the types of things that we need to invest in.
Not to be a complete downer, but I'll ask you again, is that something Pittsburgh can reasonably do? Do you see a path for that as we're also struggling with not going broke ourselves?
That is the type of thing that a private-public partnership can achieve, I believe. You need vision, you need partners. And yes, I totally believe that is something that we could achieve here.
I'll leave us here. Any hint that some more of those private-public partnerships or one-time gifts might be coming around the corner? I
am not aware of any announcements coming soon, but I am hopeful. Again,
you're manifesting?
I'm zenning them. But I am hopeful. Like I said, I do think that the initial financial support that we got from UPMC is very encouraging. I'm a firm believer that you don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. And last year, that number was 0. And anything above that will contribute to the direct operation of city government. I appreciate the arguments for more or this or that.
I understand the frustration completely, but something is better than nothing.
We need to have these long-term agreements in place so that the city can rely on this revenue year over year. And I believe that, this is the first 4 months of the year are a really good start to what hopefully lies ahead.
City Controller Rachael Heisler, thank you so much.
Thanks, Megan. Nice to see you. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. That is all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. If you too live here on purpose and you want some delicious wall art to say that for you, may I recommend our custom CityCast Pittsburgh Oxford pennant. This special offer just for CityCast Pittsburgh members is now extended through Friday. Our campaign is over, but we do have a few extra and we would love to send y'all one. Become a member today at membership.citycast.fm. But for real, once it's gone on Friday, it's gone for good. Time is running out. Thank you to everyone who has already made the leap, including John M., Robin Q., Meg M., Wendy S., Anna B., Laura S., Jennifer K., Laura H., Alex F., and Noah and Mary Catherine P. We still have so many more names to say, so many more people to thank. You can listen for more tomorrow, and you can join them and support us by becoming a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor. All the details and the perks are at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow with more from around the city. We'll talk to you soon. I read in the Trib this weekend that you get up and go to the gym at 4:30 in the morning. How do you function as a human?
I go to bed at 8 o'clock.
I was going to say, do you have any advice for the rest of us that can't do that?
I'm so uncool. It's like profoundly uncool.